Good morning, Roll Gang, and welcome on in to another episode of the Weekday Wake and Bake. I am your host, Processor Sky, here with a Canna News Thursday, jam-packed with the latest and greatest in cannabis industry news. Super excited to share these cannabis news stories with you guys. Got my Anchorman mode activated and super excited to dive into some stories from California, Minnesota, the state capital, Washington, D.C., and a little bit of TV show health knowledge. But super excited for this Canna News Thursday edition of the Weekday Wake and Bake with the Roll Gang, live at 8 a.m. weekday morning. You know where to find me. Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. You know how it goes down. I appreciate every single one of you guys tuning in, and really excited to dive into today's edition of the show with you guys. But before we get on into it, huge shout out to the sponsors of the show. Good morning to Cali 420 Love tuning in. What is happening, my man? But anyways, the first sponsor of the show this morning, today is the day at the Chamber of Cannabis. Roll Gang, if you guys were waiting for the day of the event to buy the tickets, you know, I actually get it. It's kind of hard to commit to an advanced date in advance, especially if it's like you buy tickets, because you don't know if you're going to go to the show for sure until the day of, and you don't want to commit your ticket price until you're sure you're going to come. But it is going to be an absolute banger, and you guys don't want to miss it. If you're in the Vegas area and you're free tonight, make sure to hit up the Chamber of Cannabis. Their bio at Chamber of Cannabis on Instagram has the link so that you can buy your tickets. I'm also going to attach the ticket link to the story associated with today's show, and come through to meet 11 decision makers in this upcoming election. A huge opportunity to meet the candidates and for the candidates to meet you, Roll Gang. If you guys are passionate about this amazing plant and the progression as it goes, as this budding industry grows, then you gotta show up to this Chamber of Cannabis event. Rep super hard, and yeah, it's gonna be such a fun time. 6 p.m., diversion, amusements, and it is going to be super lit. Got my Chamber of Cannabis rolling spoon here that I am going to use to procure my cannabis this morning, and I am super excited to do that with you guys, Roll Gang. So without further ado, let's get on into today's episode of the show. It is Canna News Thursday, ladies and gentlemen, which means we get to dive into some of the best cannabis news stories from around the country, around the world, and kind of just go over the latest week of industry news, newsworthy events. The first news story on today's Canna News Thursday comes from the great state of California. So California just signed and passed a new cannabis bill that enables parents that are engaged in welfare, child support, to treat cannabis consumption as if it were alcohol consumption, which is actually a huge step because people in California were losing the rights to visit their child over consuming cannabis. And this egregious rule needed to be overturned so that parents that smoke rather than drink or consume cannabis maturely don't have to don't have to pick between this amazing, magical, and medicinal plant and the opportunity to see their children. Like, that is just super irrational, and this bill was passed to enable the government to treat cannabis in situations of welfare, including children, to treat it like alcohol, which is a much more lenient process. Major shout out to California for being so foresightful with this. Honestly, it's just a tragedy, a travesty that it's ever had to happen that way, that people had to deal with the loss of their children, being able to see their children because they consume cannabis, but no more in California. We're moving somewhere. I mean, that is a really big step. There's a lot of really egregious and irrational rules associated with cannabis consumption, and we just have to chip away at them one by one. Little rung at a time. We have to target one little egregious rule at a time and knock them out. California absolutely checking that box this week by passing a bill that enables cannabis consumption to be treated as alcohol consumption in situations of child support, deciding the situation for a child. But anyways, the next great news story, cannabis industry news story, comes from the great state of Minnesota. Huge shout out, my guy Zach, the only dude I know from Minnesota, but it's got to be a great state. I hope to go someday. Minneapolis. So the Minnesota House of Representatives asked a grouping of Minnesotans about cannabis legislation, particularly in Minnesota, at the Minnesota State Fair, which just occurred. So, Minnesota State Fair, the House of Representatives polling a group of citizens about cannabis legislation, and the results are incredibly exciting. So, of those polled, a whopping 61% of individuals supported cannabis legislation. 30% were opposed, leaving around 8% undecided. So let's get this straight. Over double the amount of individuals who oppose cannabis support it. I mean, it was not this way 5 years ago, Roll Gang. The Minnesotans are making their opinions heard. Double the amount of people support cannabis that oppose it. What a crazy battle. What an outnumbered battle. We are on the winning side. The numbers won't lie. Minnesota, super low-key, just kind of one of those states that nobody would think about for cannabis legislation, but the House of Representatives polling individuals that attended the Minnesota State Fair, asking about cannabis legislation support. 61% in support versus 30% in opposition. Absolutely gutted for those who are against cannabis. My love is out to you guys. Don't understand that point of view, but man, it is a losing side. This plant, man, there's something to it. There's something about it. Connecting the individuals, 61% voting in support. In Minnesota, at the Minnesota State Fair. Hell yeah. Love to hear it. Love to hear it. Alright, so the next cannabis news story is actually kind of, I think, probably the most interesting of the day. It is from DC. It's about this one individual who got fired for consuming cannabis for failing a drug test. But before I get on into this cannabis news story, just a reminder, go get your Chamber of Cannabis event tickets. The banger is tonight If you are in Las Vegas, it is an absolute essential that you roll through and make your amazing positive vibes felt for these candidates, these future decision makers for our local and federal government. You know, the amount of power that's going to be in Diversion Amusements in the building for the Chamber of Cannabis event tonight. 11 candidates in the upcoming elections. It is going to be a banger of a time, and we are going to change the stigma from, I don't know what it is. They obviously support cannabis if they're coming to the Chamber of Cannabis event, but we have to show them how we get down. Just positive vibes only, great energy, and if we show them a good time, they're not going to forget. So make sure you come through the Chamber of Cannabis event tonight, 6 p.m., Diversion Amusements. It is going down. Absolutely pumped about it. And if you guys are out of state, I know a lot of the Roll Gangers would love to show their support from out of state, from other areas. You can tune in via Zoom. Check the Chamber of Cannabis Instagram for the details, for the Zoom link and the password, but would absolutely love to see you guys there, or at least on Zoom tonight at 6 p.m. Shout out the Chamber of Cannabis, the most professional coalition of stoners in the galaxy. So in Washington, D.C., a government employee lost her job and because her boss claimed that she had red eyes and was talking quiet. So basically, an unbelievable situation. This girl had a government job in D.C. who has a dipwad for a boss, who came in and claimed that this girl was high because of her red eyes and because she was talking quietly. This poor girl said she didn't get any sleep. She pulled an all-nighter because she had work and family issues to take care of, and she was low energy, and her boss thought she was high, so he drug tested her. And of course, she smoked weed. I don't know. She was not high on the job, but she consumed cannabis. She failed the drug test and got fired. Well, DC has officially reinstated her job and actually fined her boss for unrightful termination. And there's actually rules being written so that to protect legal cannabis consumers from being terminated from their job in Washington, D.C. Super excited. It just seems like Justice Week, California passing a bill that gives justice to those who had their children taken because of their cannabis consumption. Minnesota, the House of Representatives, asking for cannabis reform on a poll, and the people just asking for justice. And you gotta love to hear this government employee getting the justice that she deserves, having her job reinstated because she didn't deserve to get fired. She was not stoned on the job. You cannot tell someone's high by their red eyes. There's a lot of reason you can get red eyes. There's really no way you can tell whether someone's stoned or not. So don't accuse people unless you know for sure, and at least allow people to give the opportunity to show you how productive they can be before judging, because cannabis, alternatively to popular belief, does not make you lazy like everybody thinks. Some people actually consume wisely, and it gives a really shit ton of health benefits. I know the Roll Gang all knows this. We're all probably consuming some herb right now. I hope you guys are blowing some trees right now, but yeah, I hope this government employee is back at it in her job, and just super hyped to hear she got her job back, because what a dick for a boss. God damn, would have hated to see him win. But anyways, the last piece of cannabis news here on this Canna News Thursday episode of the Weekday Wake and Bake comes from Dr. Oz, who on his show, Dr. Oz, admitted that cannabis is a quote, in quotes, safer solution than prescription drugs. I mean, Dr. Oz, one of the smartest minds in the game, and also has a very sketchy platform to be supporting cannabis. If he didn't feel comfortable about it, he wouldn't have said it. And just the fact that cannabis is a solution, let alone a safer solution than prescription drugs, we have a plant that is a solution. I mean, Mother Nature clearly giving us the smokable salad. Let's take care of our bodies and our minds and consume cannabis over these addictive drugs that they're trying to give us in the health system right now. We have to change the system, but for now, all we can do is control what we put into our bodies. Watch prescription drugs. They're extremely dangerous, and listen to Dr. Oz's advice. Cannabis is a safer solution. It just blatantly is. So make sure you guys are consuming your cannabis. It has been an awesome morning with the Roll Gang, putting on my Anchorman cap, my Honey Badger hat. Shout out Honey Badger Squad over at Honey Badger HQ. Got my first Honey Badger. I'm gonna take a dab on the show here one of these days. Maybe Fuck Yeah Friday with our guy Jaybird tomorrow morning of Cross Country Wellness. Super excited about tomorrow's Fuck Yeah Friday with my guy Jaybird, another entrepreneur that has his own company, Cross Country Wellness, full spectrum CBD company. So excited to just, ask him all of the juice about the creation of his business and the growth. I absolutely so excited to bring this personality onto the show. One of my favorite people in the Las Vegas cannabis industry. Hopping on tomorrow. Shout out Jaybird. Shout out the entire Roll Gang for tuning into this episode of the show. It is absolutely for you. Everybody on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, I hope that you guys are burning some trees and enjoying the free cannabis content. As per every weekday morning at 8 a.m. Pacific time, I absolutely love session with you guys. Your pro session will always come back because at the end of the day, I just love to do it. Sitting here and waking bacon with the gang because it's going down and it never gets old, Roll Gang. 150 plus episodes in and we are just getting started. So much love to you guys. So much love to the sponsors of the show. Shout out the Chamber of Cannabis event tonight. The Chamber of Cannabis Rolling Spoon helping me to roll a dime every time or pack my bowl nice and evenly. You can pack your bowl, scoop it in and underside it, but fucking right. Chamber of Cannabis spoon. Come get one at the event tonight. Shout out Roll Gang. Love you guys so much. See you Fuck Yeah Friday with our guy, Jaybird. Let's fucking go.